Tonight on the news, commuters decry deplorable state of Owo Ikpele Road. Federal government's age restriction on Unity schools admission throws up divergent views from respondents. Immigration boss declares state of emergency on passport issue in Nigeria. And from the foreign scene, explosions mar African leaders' visits to Ukraine. Thank you very much for joining us tonight on the news at 7. I am Oyewumi Ayinigbara. Motorists and residents of Ijoka axis in Akure, the Ondo State capital, have decried the slow pace of construction work in the area. The road users noted that apart from hindering free flow of traffic, the roads are becoming death traps for vehicles and commuters. Joy Pius, who visited the area to ascertain the level of work done so far, reports that residents are calling for a quick completion of the route to ease transportation.
From inception, the Akredolu administration's investment in infrastructural development has been monumental, with road construction taking the lead in the quest to bridge infrastructure gaps in the state. Within 100 days in office, many roads in Akure Metropole had been flagged off and commissioned, a signal of what was to come as years passed. Beyond the 100 days in office, Ondo State has literally become a construction site. The Ijoka Road project, which is one of the projects approved by the present administration in 2017 to ease transportation problem of the people of the area, is ongoing. Residents of the area, though appreciative of the gesture, decried the slow pace of the road construction.
We thank him for this Ijoka Road. But what we are seeing from the people that are working, the contractor giving the work to, we are happy with the work, but the work is not moving as we are thinking that before this rainy season, the work has to be concluded, but it's not. So they are just doing it slowly, and it's giving problem.
Look at the rain that fell yesterday. Look at the sufferness that people suffer here. So they should put more effort.
àní tí wọ́n fẹ́ sọ̀nà láàrin ibi tó kù sí tí wọ́n fẹ́ ṣe láàrin oṣù méjì kò sí tọ́nà wọn láti ṣe kọ́ ẹ̀pù wa kán bá ní ṣe gbogbo mọ́tò ló ti bàjẹ́.
kọ́lọ́run kó ràn wọ́n lọ́wọ́ kán ṣàánú wa ọ̀nà yìí ẹsẹ̀ ń gbabẹ̀ gan mọ́tò ń gbabẹ̀ gan so a nídìí ẹ̀ gan ó affect iná wa ó affect everything so ẹjọ́ ó nira fún wa gan owó transport ibẹ̀ ó tún jẹ́ kó pọ̀ yàtọ̀ sí kó wọ́n gan.
kọ́tà tí wọ́n ṣe yìí ó fẹ́ ó yẹ kán bá wa cover ẹ̀ ní because a wò pé ọlọ́mọ jẹ́ ká rí kan tí ò dáa even àwa la máa ń lé àwọn ọmọ kéékèèké àwọn míì tán máa ń ti school bọ̀ wọ́n máa ń ṣeré lórí covert yẹn wọ́n máa tọ etí ẹ̀ lọ ìgbà míì tójò yẹn bá dẹ̀ ti rọ̀ òjò yẹn omi yẹn á kún irú ìjẹta báyìí ọmọ kan sì jábọ́ sí bíbí tó jẹ́ pé ó ń tọ orí kọ́tà yẹn so tó bá jẹ́ pé ìjọba lè bá wa cover ẹ̀ bí ó tiẹ̀ tick tó but kàn sì cover ẹ̀ so that àwọn èèyàn lè máa gba orí ẹ̀ kọjá.
The site engineer Afolabi Adebumi, who hinged the delay on weather conditions and difficulty in removing electricity poles, assured that progress is being recorded.
After we finished with the drain from Ijomo Junction to Odopo Junction, we ought to commence our artwork. But because the relocation of the poles were not done then, so we had to proceed down to Ayoni. But now the relocation, they are almost through with the relocation, and as soon as they are done, we commence with their artworks.
Meanwhile, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Works, Mr. Idowu Allen, said all ongoing road projects in Ondo State are being monitored, hinting that Ijoka Road will be completed in record time. Joy Pius, OSRC News.
Meanwhile, motorists flying Owo Ikpele Road in Ondo State have described the deplorable condition of the federal road. The road users complained that the journey, which ordinarily should take 10 minutes, now take them up to 2 hours. Some of the commuters interviewed said the road exposes them to danger as the area is notorious for kidnapping. The motorists called on Ondo State and the federal government to wade into the dreadful highway. The commuters particularly said the Federal Road Maintenance Agency FEMA should take a look at what could be done to ameliorate the situation. In education, Nigerians have expressed divergent views over the policy of the federal government banning pupils who are not up to 11 years from sitting for the National Common Entrance Examination conducted by the National Examination Council (NECO) for admission into Unity colleges. Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Education David Adejo had given a directive recently in Abuja while monitoring the conduct of the 2023 Common Entrance Examination into the 110 federal government colleges across the Federation. Osrc Saeed Arib Salah has the report.
Recently, the federal government said underage children would no longer be allowed to participate in the National Common Entrance Examination conducted by the National Examination Council (NECO) for admission into Unity colleges nationwide. The government told the examination body to deploy strict measures to stop underage pupils from registering for the examination, adding that birth certificate would be compulsory for registration. It said to get into secondary school, a candidate should be at least 12 years and that a pupil could be 11 plus during the examination, and by the time of admission, such a person would have attained the age 12. The move has, however, generated reactions, pitching Nigerians to different ends. While some see it as a welcome development which will ensure that children cope well enough with the rigors of learning at the secondary school level, Deputy National President, National Parent Teachers Association of Nigeria, Adeolu Ogunbanjo, appealed to the federal government to reduce the age to 10. Some Nigerians are also of the opinion that the age limit be removed considering the changing dynamics in child's development.
Government policy decisions are usually things that should be well considered before they are made. And so I want to believe that they consider this very well before they made that decision. It has to be the issue of the mental age and the ability to be able to cope with the rigors of learning. If a child gets to the school when he's immature, he will not be able to cope. And it will affect the productivity of that child. And then the parent that is in a hurry and wants his child to go very fast, when the child repeats the class, you have gained nothing. So it's good for children to follow their natural development in education.
For me, I think this will deprive those brilliant young chaps from attaining greater heights on time. Because when you leave the nursery school, we have some of them at the age of 16, they are already done with JAMB, they are done with whatever they want to do, and they can secure admission. And I think by the records of JAMB, and even most higher institutions of learning, they still admit students that are within 16 years old. So for me, I don't think it is a good thing, and I will urge the federal government to look at it critically so that the students, the parents, and they get buy-in from these parents and also their contributions.
I believe when a child is at the age of 12 or 13, that child is capable of finish secondary school and do his WAEC or whatsoever or NECO before he graduate from secondary school.
Many agree that education is not about passing exams, but the entire gamut of teaching, learning, and character formation. Synergy between parents and guardians at schools will enhance overall growth of children. Sahid Aribisala, OSRC News.
In the meantime, Common Entrance Examination into public secondary schools in Ondo State will hold tomorrow, the 17th of June. The examination, which serve as placement tests into the schools, will take place simultaneously at designated centers across the 18 local government area of Ondo State. According to the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Education, Science and Technology, Mrs. Folashade Adegoke, accreditation of candidates will begin by 8 in the morning. She enjoined parents and guidance to ensure that candidates get to designated centers on time with their registration slips and writing materials. You're still watching Osrc News at 7. After the break, we'll bring you more stories. Please stay with us.
Who wants to tell me the answer? Good. This way.
I give my soul. You get my time and dedication.
Hey, stop that.
You know, get waiting for life. Where I know if you do. Cause all the dream where we don't dream must to come true. It must to show for you. Cause it's sure for me. Together we will ride against the mountains away. So make you dare with me. Cause I dare for you. Together we will ride against the mountains away.
Teach the advanced way with Glow LTE Advanced, the power of 3 data networks in one. Get a Glow SIM or dial *301#.
A peak protein breakfast gets you up to a great day. How do I know? Because my daddy goes through his work feeling good and always with a smile. Mommy is always filled with confidence. My sister is always in tune. And for me, learning new things becomes absolute fun. That's because all day and every day, the peak goes on.
Start your day with a Peak Protein Breakfast. Peak. Reach for your peak.
Abwad Multi-System Hospital at Duekiti, best equipped hospital in sub-Saharan Africa, offers the following services at the main hospital and the annexes at Bashuri and Oduado in Aduekiti. Free antenatal registration and consultation for all pregnant women. Free registration, consultation and immunization for children under 5 years. Other services at discounted rate include open heart surgeries, dialysis and kidney transplant, brain, spine and total joint replacement surgeries, correction of deformities, full range dental procedures, out and in-patient services, cutting-edge MRI and CT scans. For further inquiries, call 081-601-60011, 080-601-86037. Announcer, Chief Medical Director.
Upward, a vision in action.
Glad to have you back. You can watch us live on our website www.osrc.ng or follow us on Facebook OSRC TV, and on YouTube you can subscribe to our channel OSRC TV Ondo. Following a charge by President Bola Tinubu that governors should come up with ideas to mitigate the impact of subsidy removal, members of the National Economic Council (NEC) have deliberated extensively on the issue and constituted a committee to follow up. Rising from a meeting after inauguration, Bauchi State Governor Bala Mohammed said the meeting focused on the recommendation by Nigerian Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress that the federal government should consider a 702 billion naira fund in form of salary adjustment. He said the meeting noted that workers and other vulnerable citizens in the society should be the beneficiaries as a way of helping them to cushion the effects of the subsidy removal. At the meeting, chaired by the Vice President Kashim Shettima, the governors resolved that a committee be set up to look at modalities for its implementation. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has rejected a motion by Philip Agbese, a member of the All Progressives Congress from Benue State, to address the migration of Nigerians to other countries. Agbese posited that the growing statistics of young Nigerians relocating abroad portends a great danger for the nation. He prayed the House to ask the federal government to convene a national summit with key stakeholders to effectively address the issue and also declare a state of emergency on the factors that predispose young Nigerians to give up on Nigeria in preference for other nations. However, when the motion, including the amendment, was put to a voice vote, by the Speaker of the House, Tajuddin Abbas. Those against the motion outnumbered those in support. Speaking after plenary, Agbese said he will revoke the motion and represent it before the House. Speaker, House of Representatives Tajuddin Abbas has adjourned plenary until July 4, while also announcing the setting up of 7 ad hoc committees that will assist the leadership pilots the affairs of the House pending the composition of standing committees. The adjournment is to enable the National Assembly leadership assign permanent sitting positions and offices to the lawmakers. Abbas said the composition of standing committees will be constituted when the House recovered in July. The Speaker and his Deputy Speaker, Benjamin Kalu, will chair the selection committee with a lawmaker from 36 states and FCT as members. The Internal Security Committee of the National Assembly will be chaired by Danjuma Azan, while Media and Public Affairs Committee will be chaired by Abba Buka Ibrahim, with Ikenga Ogochinyere as Deputy Chairman. Acting Comptroller General of the Nigerian Immigration Service, Caroline Adepoju, has announced a state of emergency on passport issues in the country. Mrs. Adepoju, who made a declaration during her working visit to Lagos, emphasized the urgent need to address challenges faced by Nigerians in obtaining passports and declared a comprehensive plan of action to tackle these issues effectively. Adepoju stressed the necessity to dismantle all man-made bottlenecks that impede the passport application process, noting that the immigration top management is fully committed to addressing institutional and technology-based drawbacks to ensure a more efficient and streamlined service delivery. She urges all Nigerians to remain patient and cooperate with the service as it takes decisive steps to address this passport crisis. And the Nigerian Customs Service has destroyed 96 containers of illicit and expired pharmaceuticals, energy drinks, and other products worth 12.8 billion naira imported through the seaports and land borders in the southwest. The destruction, which was at the Ekpe dump site in Lagos, was done in collaboration with other sister agencies, including National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control and the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency. Assistant Controller General of Customs in charge of Enforcement, Inspection and Investment, Adoye Dapa Williams, said the items seized have all been condemned by courts of competent jurisdiction. According to him, the items were imported into the country through the seaport and land borders, noting that the destruction is to discourage the importation and consumption of these items. He added that the harmful effects of illicit items in society cannot be overemphasized, as they have destroyed countless lives of youth, families, and the economy, as well as led to an upsurge in crime in society. The Global Funds to Fight AIDS, Tuberculosis, and Malaria has approved $1 billion to fight against tuberculosis, malaria, and HIV in Nigeria in the next 3 years. According to the country portfolio manager in Nigeria, Dr. John Thomas Nobuosi, Global Fund is working to ensure equitable disbursement of funds to countries affected in the fight against tuberculosis, AIDS, and malaria around the globe. Nobuosi said Nigeria is the highest beneficiary of the grant out of approximately 110 countries of the world. He therefore sought the support of the SGF to ensure speedy implementation of the funding to Nigeria in the fight against AIDS, malaria, and tuberculosis in the country. Dr. Nobuosi commended the federal government for the success it recorded in the fight against the 3 health challenges, particularly tuberculosis. Also, Sultan of Sokoto Said Abubakar has expressed concern over the health condition of the internally displaced persons in 6 northern states. The Sultan raised the concern during an engagement in Abuja between northern traditional leaders and the National Primary Health Care Development Agency. He explained that with the possibility of an outbreak of epidemic, 1 person is enough to pass it around to the whole population in the IDP. The Sokoto traditional leaders said there was a need for states with IDP camps such as Kebbi, Sokoto, Zamfara, Kaduna, Niger, and Katsina, to take proactive measures to prevent outbreaks of the diseases. The Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC) has charged mobile network operators and internet service providers on the security and safety of their network for consumers. NCC Vice Chairman and Chief Executive Officer Umar Dambata gave the directive at the 2023 annual Nigerian Digital Sense Forum. Dambata stated that a major regulatory framework put in place by the Commission is an Internet Code of Practice for the telecom industry, which is essentially to protect the right of Internet users to an open Internet. It listed the obligations of Internet access service providers in the handling of offensive and potentially harmful content and the protection of minors and vulnerable audiences online, among others. The NCC BUZZ further emphasized that the Nigerian Communication Act 2003 requests NCC's licenses to prevent their network facilities or services from being used to commit any offense under the law in Nigeria. And now to the foreign scene. Explosions have been heard in Kyiv and air raid sirens blared as a delegation of African leaders began a peace mission hoping to mediate between Ukraine and Russia. After a meeting with President Zelensky in Ukraine, the group has headed to St. Petersburg for talks with President Vladimir Putin. Colonel General Oleksandr Syrsky, who is in charge of Ukraine's ground forces, described the situation in Bakhmut as tense and says Russia is bringing its best troops to the battle. Meanwhile, Putin has praised Russia's public finances and said additional defense spending is needed to bolster national security as Moscow conducts its special military operation in Ukraine. Rescue workers have transferred the bodies of dead migrants to refrigerated trucks as a major search continued for possible survivors of a sea disaster in northern Greece. Hundreds of people were still feared missing as many kids could have been trapped in the boats old. Akitude Akishimala has an update.
Greece has declared 3 days of national mourning after an overloaded migrant boat capsized off its shores midweek. No fewer than 100 people were killed in the incident, and with hundreds still missing, Greek authorities say the death toll is likely to rise. Most of those on board were reportedly from Egypt, Syria, and Pakistan. Greek President Katerina Sakellaropoulou visited some of the survivors who had been taken to a warehouse shelter in the port of Kalamata. The city's mayor, Thanasis Vasilopoulos, said services had been mobilized to help the migrants.
We've taken care of all of this. We've prepared the site, the toilets, the showers, anything that's needed, from clothes to anything else. Food has come for those staying here overnight and for tomorrow's breakfast, lunch and dinner.
The shipwreck was one of the deadliest of Greece in several years. The vessel set sail from the Libya town of Tobruk and was headed to Italy, but authorities did not confirm the ship's departure port. Rescue support charity Alarm Phone said it believed around 750 people were on board when the ship went under, while the United Nations Migration Agency put the number at around 400. A UN spokesman said Secretary General Antonio Guterres was horrified by the report. He added that countries need to work together to prevent such tragedy.
The only way we're going to get safe pathways, the only way we're going to avoid people going on these perilous journeys, the only way we're going to get criminal gangs out of this equation is if countries of origin, countries of transit, and countries of destination work together. We have the instruments, the Global Compact on Migration, international refugee law. It's a matter of, in a way, political leadership and political courage and determination.
Greece is one of the main routes into the European Union for refugees and migrants from the Middle East, Asia, and Africa. Nearly 1,000 people are estimated to have died or gone missing in the Mediterranean this year, according to the United Nations. Akintunde Akinshimala for Osrc News.
And that concludes the news tonight, but before we go, a quick look at the top stories. We told you that commuters have decried the deplorable state of our Ikwili Road. Federal government's age restriction on Unity Schools admission has thrown up divergent views from respondents. Immigration Controller General Wuraola Adepoju has declared a state of emergency on passport issue in Nigeria. And from the foreign scene, explosions have reset of African leaders' visit to Ukraine. And that's the news tonight. Thank you very much for your time. Do have a good evening.